Hi everyone, it's Colleen. Welcome to the March challenge for WOW Embossing Powder. This month's theme is Color and Texture. And today I want to show you how to bring your embossing powders to the next level by adding WOW changers to them. And I hope you'll find this video informative and helpful on finding new ways to use your powders. And remember to join us this month for the challenge. You can join us on Facebook or Instagram, and remember to add the hashtag WOW Embossing Challenge so that we can find your creations and comment on them. And at the end of the month, we'll choose a winner. So good luck, and let's get started with the WOW changers. So the changers come with a set of 3 changers and a set of 3 empty containers. Now the changers are meant to be added to your existing powders, and they change up the texture, the color, and the gradient of your powders. The 3 changers are called Sheen, Glisten, and Texture. Sheen adds a glossy shine to your embossing powders, a smooth glossy shine. Glisten adds a glittery shiny texture to it, and Texture adds a rougher surface to the touch. It's a little harder to see that, but Texture is a really subtle and cool one to use. And then you get 3 empty containers that you will use to mix your powders with the changers. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. So we are working with 5 different powders, and as a side note, even though I'm showing you these 2 powders, I did not end up using them because I didn't want to confuse the situation. So I focused on 3 powders, and I'm using a metal spoon, and that is to keep the static out of the powders because WOW removes the static from their powders. So recommendation is to use a metal spoon. Okay. So I'm starting by mixing the WOW Diana's Love with the Sheen changer. So when you're mixing them into the empty container, it's 1 part embossing powder to 1 part changer. So if you had 2 scoops of embossing powder, you add 2 scoops of changer, shake it up, mix it together, and you've got something new. The next one's called Judas Love, and I'm mixing that with the Glisten changer. Don't you love that color? Oh, I just love that color. So again, I'm mixing 2 parts embossing powder, and I clean my spoon off between so I don't get powder in the changer, and then 2 parts of the Glisten, and then I shake it up. I got my lids mixed up, and then that one's done. The third powder I'm working with is called In the Navy, and I'm going to mix that with Texture. Now, In the Navy already has a glittery, shimmery additive to it, and I'm going to add Texture because I thought that would be a cool combination. And once that's done, I shake this up, and now I have my 3 powders with the changers ready to go. So now I want to swatch them because I want to see how it looks with the changers and how it looks without the changers. So I've created some swatches that I got from Waffle Flower, and I will put the description of it in my description box below. And I'm adding my conditioner, my embossing ink pad refill conditioner, to my sticky pad so it's nice and juicy when I do my swatching. So I'm going to swatch each powder twice. This one is without the changer. And then I'm going to go back in and swatch that same powder with the changer. And In the Navy is mixed with Texture. I found this to be really interesting. I'm not one for swatching. I don't like to take the time to swatch, but I really thought that this was well worth it because I got to see how different it looks with the changers in them. And you'll see this in a minute. So now I'm moving on to Diana's Love. And again, I'm going to swatch with powder, the plain powder, and swatch it again with the changer added to the powder. I probably need to swatch more often. Now that I've done it, it's like, This is actually very helpful. So here it is. They've all been swatched. So when you look at Diana's Love, the one on the left is the embossing powder, and the swatch on the right is the embossing powder plus the sheen changer. Look at the difference between the two of them. That is awesome. Next one up is in the navy, and the swatch to the left is the embossing powder. The swatch to the right is the powder with the texture changer. And when you touch it with the texture changer, it's a rough surface as opposed to the regular powder that is very smooth. Third one, Judas Blush. To the left is the embossing powder, and the swatch to the right is the powder with the glisten. And look at that shimmer. Boy, is that pretty. I'm glad I mixed that glisten with that powder. So now that I have swatched them and you can see how they work, now it's time to put them to use and make a background. So we're going to make two backgrounds. One of them will be just the embossing powder. One of them will be the embossing powder with the changers in them. First background will be the embossing powder with the changers in them. And I put on here that I was going to use this powder as well, but again, I ended up not using them because I really wanted to stick to just the three powders. So I took my Wow sticky pad and I just swiped it across the page randomly. And now I'm going to start with Judas Blush with the glisten changer. And I'm going to heat it between layers because I don't want to contaminate my sticky pad. And I'm going to keep building these layers up until I like how the background looks. Now, if you want more information on creating abstract backgrounds like this, I have another video up here on the Wow channel that I did last month, or I did in January for the January challenge. And I went through and did something similar and created a really cool background using all kinds of powders. So if you're interested in that, you can view that video as well and get some really good ideas on how to create a background with embossing powders. I think it's fun. I think I'm addicted, in fact. So I'm finishing up on the background with the embossing powder with the changers, and I'm about to go into creating a background with just the embossing powder. So now we're working with the full Mohican. There are no changers in these powders, but I'm doing the same technique, swiping the background with my sticky pad, and then I heat emboss in between layers so I don't contaminate my pad, and I just keep building up color until I'm satisfied with the background. Once this is done, I will show you a comparison side by side of what the backgrounds look like with the changers in them and what they look like without the changers in them. And it's just nice because these changers help your embossing powders go even further. So you don't really need that many powders because the changers kind of change the color and the texture of your powders. So this is the embossing powder. And then the one to the left is the embossing powder plus the changers. Look how different that looks, like completely different embossing powder, doesn't it? So that's what I mean. You can really make your embossing powders go a lot further with these changers and create new colors and new textures and new shine. So now that that's done, I'm going to show you the cards I made with these backgrounds. These are the two cards. The one on the left is the one with the changers, and this one here is the one just the embossing powders. So what I had done was I had I dry embossed with an Ulta New angled mosaic embossing to just add a little more texture. And then I went in and I stamped this flower from Ulta New called Calming Reverie in Catherine Pooler's Bellini Rouge and Juniper Mist because they match the powders. And then I did my sentiment with a Wow stamp that was inspired by Marian Emberson. And I'm really happy with how this turned out. But look at, These are the same powders, but the changers created a completely different look than the powders by themselves. I really hope that you get your hands on those changers, mix them up with your embossing powders, and create some new cards with them. And please remember to like this if you like what you see, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and use the hashtag WowEmbossingChallenge. Thank you.